Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us for this afternoon's webinar, which is getting started with Web AppBuilder for ArcGIS. And I'm Eamonn Doyle, Chief Technology Officer with Esri Ireland, and here with me I have Michael Kelly, who's Technical Sales Engineer with Esri Ireland. So our agenda today is I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction to Web AppBuilder, talk about what Web AppBuilder actually is and how you can use it and how people are using it. A little bit about what's new in the latest release, which came out last week, and then I'm going to use a web app that we've actually built for the purposes of this webinar, which we're calling the Wind Farm app. And then I'm going to hand over to Mikey, and Mikey is going to bring you through what we had to do to build the app, which was actually pretty straightforward, and delve a little bit into how you go about building apps using the Web App Builder, and also talk a little bit about the Web App Builder Developer Edition and how to integrate third-party widgets or widgets you might develop yourselves. And also we're going to talk about where you can host your app if you've modified it using the Developer Edition. We're going to introduce you to some community resources that are out there to help you in getting started with Web App Builder and in getting into sourcing third-party widgets. We're going to have a bit of a Q&A and then talk about the next webinar, which will be in about 6 weeks' time. So you're all probably pretty familiar at this stage with the ArcGIS platform and how we think about it. The purpose of the ArcGIS platform is really to enable GIS everywhere. And by that we mean across the desktop, in web browsers and on mobile devices. Nowadays the ArcGIS platform has as its focus what we call the portal, which can be either an ArcGIS Online portal, or it can be portal for ArcGIS that you host yourselves. And under the portal then we have various infrastructural elements, including, for instance, your ArcGIS server and your hosted content services that might be coming from ArcGIS Online. It's a simple, integrated and open platform. It's easy to use. It's the components of the platform are well integrated, and it's easy to access in an open form for other systems via our APIs. And we want the ArcGIS platform to be available to you both on the cloud and on premises, and accessible to all your devices and all your workers. Within the ArcGIS platform, there are a number of different ways of building web applications that you can then deploy across the platform. The simplest of these, and one some of you will be familiar with, is to use the application templates that we already provide in Portal for ArcGIS or ArcGIS Online. These are pre-built applications that Esri have built and are available from your application gallery when you go to share. And some of these indeed are actually built using Web App Builder, and some of them are custom developments. The basic idea is similar in both cases. You build your web map, which represents your content or the content that you want to push out through your app, and essentially you pour that web map into one of these templates and then you deploy that template. And that's a pretty straightforward workflow that many people have found productive. By default, ArcGIS includes, I think, some 20 or so of these templates, and they fit a lot of different use cases, as you can see from the thumbnails there on the screen. But they do limit you to just what those templates do. So where Web App Builder comes in is where you want to do something that's not included in one of those templates, or you want to build an app that is tweaked for your particular purpose. And that's the need that Web App Builder addresses. But the workflow is very similar. It starts with a web map, and again, you pour your web map into an application that you build using Web App Builder. So Web App Builder is an app that builds apps. It's functionality that has been available in ArcGIS for some time. It arrived in ArcGIS Online in December 2014 and in Portal for ArcGIS at 10.3 and later editions. It enables new apps to be created without coding, and it's the without coding is the key unique selling point that we have for Web App Builder at the moment. So it addresses the need for people within organizations who might be GIS types, for instance, within the organization, to be able to quickly build and deploy new applications that address the needs of the users within that organization without recourse necessarily to developer skills. The app builder itself has an interactive what you see is what you get experience. So it's a bit like a wizard. It guides you through the process of building your app. And the apps that you build run on any device that has a web browser. So we have built Web App Builder on the concept of mobile first, so that anything that you build using Web App Builder can run on a phone or a tablet or on a desktop web browser. The apps that you build are fully integrated with the ArcGIS platform. They get their web map that defines content from the ArcGIS platform, and also you can register the app with the platform so that you can count how many people are using your app. You can use the security that's inbuilt in the platform in your app. The apps themselves are built with the latest HTML5 technology, and they are based on the JavaScript API for ArcGIS. And if you do have developers in your organization, Web App Builder gives them a framework for extending what's available out of the box that enables them to easily build additional widgets or otherwise extend the framework that comes with the builder. So the typical app development process for those of you who've been involved in it looks something like this. It typically goes through a waterfall type cycle or perhaps an agile approach to app development. But the key thing that I want to get across here is it takes a long time, it involves a lot of people, and it can cost a lot of money. And also, if you've been through this, you know that at any given stage in this process, it can go very much astray because of competing requirements from an application. The web app developer process looks like this. So it's a simple 6-step process that involves creating a new empty instance of an application, picking a style, in other words, an appearance for that application, selecting the web map content that you want to go into the application, adding your widgets and configuring those widgets up to do whatever it is you want whatever functionality you want those widgets to deliver, and finally configuring some attributes of the overall application, and then you can either preview it or publish it. So it's a much more contained and much more simple process than the typical app development process. The drawback, if there is one, is that of course that relies on using what the Web App Builder gives you out of the box. And Web App Builder gives you a huge amount of functionality. There are a series of widgets included with Web App Builder, up to 30, that really address most of what we see as core web map application requirements. So these give most of the people most of the functionality they want most of the time. And some of you will be familiar with these widgets. They're based very closely on what was available in the Flex builder that went with the ArcGIS Viewer for Flex, which was a predecessor to Web App Builder. Out of the 30 widgets, the ones that people use most are listed here, but they involve navigation and query, searching for objects within your web map, using editing and integrating geoprocessing, and of course printing. So these are the typical things that people build into their apps. The beauty of Web App Builder is that you can build an app that has very few widgets or very many widgets, depending on what you're trying to achieve. So we generally go on the lean side and try and only include widgets that you think your users are actually going to need for the business process that they're undertaking within your application. So Web App Builder has a number of other factors, non-functionals you might call them. As I've mentioned, because we're using HTML5 and JavaScript, it produces a responsive user interface that enables you to support many devices within a web app, within a browser-based environment. And it's conscious of things like the size of the browser that it has available to it, and the widgets and the app framework reorganize themselves dynamically based on whatever device that you're using. So you don't have to worry as a developer or as an app builder about how your app is going to react when it's opened on an iPhone versus an iPad or an Android device, or what happens when the user turns the device around and it goes from portrait into landscape mode, for instance. The apps are web map enabled. So as I mentioned, the process is you build your web map first and then you pour it into your web app. And that gives you great flexibility over how you want your content to appear, what content you want to include in your app, what you want your symbolization to be, and your bookmarks, etc. And in fact, that's a slightly different and somewhat separate process to the actual building of the app itself. And we've also found that to be very beneficial in many cases because it allows people who understand maps and GIS to build the web map and organize the content, and then people who understand applications or how to use the Web App Builder actually build out the application. They can be one and the same person, of course, and in many cases they are. We provide you with the Builder application that works off what we call a framework or a STEM application. So Esri have built out this STEM application for you with the functional widgets that we've described. The developer using the Developer Edition also gets that framework and STEM application, and they can interact with that and add to it or remove from it as they see fit. And finally, Web App Builder, by default, in the embedded edition, which I'll talk about in a moment, builds apps that are hosted on ArcGIS Online. So when you use the Web App Builder on ArcGIS Online, the app that you build gets hosted by Esri on ArcGIS Online. It can, of course, be downloaded and hosted on your own Internet Information Server or IIS system or anywhere else. But the key thing is that if you are not in the business of hosting your own apps, you can easily create an app that's hosted on ArcGIS Online. So in terms of how we're getting on with Web App Builder, we have at the moment over 10,000 apps on ArcGIS Online that have been built with Web App Builder. And we have quite a lot of downloads, as you can see. Version 1, just under 10,000, and version 1.1, which was released in early June, just over 7,000. And in our survey of attendees to the recent user conference, which was 16,000 people, 70% of application builders are now using Web App Builder. And just to contrast those figures with the Flex Viewer and the Flex Builder, which you may be familiar with, we had about 30,000 downloads of the Flex application builder over the course of its life cycle. So you can see that, as we predicted maybe a year and a half ago, the JavaScript technology, HTML5, and the Web App Builder are starting to gain momentum and rapidly catch up with, and we predict will eventually overtake the use of the Flex Viewer. Also, we're seeing that the user community around the Web App Builder is very active on our GeoNet system. So if you haven't checked out GeoNet, I would advise that you do. There's lots of great information in there, and you can interact with other people who are involved in various different endeavors, including building web apps using Web App Builder. But these communities are becoming some of the most active communities on GeoNet, which is another indication to us that people are actively using Web App Builder. And we're also seeing, again, as we predicted, that there's an open source community building up, people who are developing widgets, third parties, not Esri, and those widgets are getting increasing numbers of downloads, with over 2,000 downloads of various widgets that are available from GeoNet or from ArcGIS Online to date, which is encouraging. I mentioned earlier that Web App Builder is integrated with your ArcGIS portal, be that a portal online or a portal on-premise. And one of the things that's key there is that when you put in some work to develop what you might call utility services on your portal, these can be, for instance, a custom locator or some base maps. A lot of you might use MapGenie as a base map on your portal. When you integrate those, or indeed custom print services with your portal, they become available through your portal to Web App Builder so that the apps that you build on using Web App Builder can seamlessly use those utility services. So that's an example of how well integrated and how tightly integrated Web App Builder and its apps are with the overall portal infrastructure. Also, there's a gallery of thousands of web apps that have already been built with Web App Builder in our live sites showcase. And indeed, there are some Irish web app examples that you have very kindly contributed yourselves to that gallery, and that gallery is growing all the time. But it's a great place to go to see how others are using Web App Builder, what sort of apps they're deploying, and what sort of widgets might be out there. It's a good starting point to see how your peer organizations are using this technology. As I mentioned, we have just gone through a release cycle for ArcGIS Online and the Web App Builder in July. So those of you who are active users on ArcGIS Online will know that the system was updated, I think last week or late the week before. And that has given a lot of enhancement to what's available in Web App Builder. Most notable is that we have added 5 new themes to the Web App Builder theme gallery. Which is great. Some of these are really nice looking, modern, fresh themes that you can use across your devices, desktop, mobile, and browser. And they're cleaner than what was there before, which was a bit traditional and square looking, I think. So we're quite excited about these new themes. They've given us a lot of flexibility in the type of apps we can deliver to people and the look and feel of those apps. So I advise checking those out. My favorite is the Dart theme. What about you, Mikey? Which one do you like?
I'd have to go for the Launchpad.
He likes the Launchpad, okay, as you'll see in a minute, because the app that we're going to feature in a moment has used the Launchpad theme. But there's all sorts of intriguing ones there, like Jewelry Box and Billboard, etc. We've also added some new widgets or modified some widgets that were there. The search widget, I don't think that's a new one, but it's definitely been modified so that we can now search both locators and say across a feature class or any feature class that you have in your web map. So that's quite good because it allows you to do very flexible searches, and I think we'll show that in a moment. There's a new stream widget, which has nothing to do with water flowing downhill, but everything to do with tracking things in real time in the real world if you have a geo-event extension on your server, so that you can track the location of vehicles or staff or airplanes or boats or whatever it is you want to track, and they will appear streaming in real time into your web app. There is a geo lookup widget, which I found very useful. It allows you to drag and drop a point feature set into your web app and intersect it with maybe polygon features that you might have there and enrich your points with the information that's held on the polygon features. Quite useful when using things like small areas in Ireland. There's an incident analysis widget which is designed for sort of crisis type scenarios, but I think has uses over and above that. It is sort of like a drill down, identify across many layers and brings back how your points, lines, or polygons interact with those other layers. And there is a summary widget which we will also show that does counts of various things in your web map and presents that in quite a nice user-friendly way on the screen. And in addition, we've done some background work on various options within the Web App Builder, which you can read on the screen there. But all the time, we're trying to improve both the functionality and the operation of the Web App Builder itself and the apps that you build with it. Okay, so we're going to go and have a look at the wind farm app that we've built specifically for this webinar. This is off the cuff, really, in terms of what we've done. If I click. Okay, so hopefully on your screen there now, you should be seeing the app that we've developed. So this wind farm app has been developed using some information about wind farms, and it's been deployed by Web AppBuilder using the Launchpad theme that Mikey likes, because Mikey built the app. And you can see well, I hope you agree, it's a reasonably attractive looking app. We've got our widget tray down the bottom here, and we've got some navigation functionality up on the top left-hand side here. We've got a pretty sparse looking title bar, etc. So this type of application is aimed at people using tablets, etc. really, but it looks good on any device, I think. It's also got a bit of color. I don't know whether you guys see my mouse as it moves around, but maybe you do, maybe you don't. And I'm going to just take you through this app before Mikey shows how we built it. So this has some of the standard widgets that you might expect. It's got a legend showing what the different symbolization is we've applied to the feature layers in the map. You can see we've got wind farms, we've got some wind speed information, and we have it draped over the dark gray canvas background. We've also got a typical layer list widget, which, if you wish, allows your users to switch on and off the various layers in the web map. And we've got a chart widget. Mikey, what does the chart widget do?
The chart widget, I suppose it shows you the wind farms by county, so you can create a chart based on where the wind farms are actually located.
So I can draw an area, can I, and query a specific area, or do I have to query the whole country?
You can input whatever area you want, or you can do it for the whole country, depending on what your use case is.
Okay, so now we see the relative amounts of wind farms in those counties that I've selected, and as I hover over one of the counties, you can see the wind farms for that county being selected. So there's good interaction between the chart and the actual features on the map. That's nice, I like that. And we can redefine, I guess, our area, can we?
Absolutely, yeah. You can do it as many times as you want.
For free?
I'm not sure.
But you get the idea, and I particularly like the interaction between the chart and the area. I hope we see more of that in the widgets as we develop new widgets. The summary is an interesting one. It allows us, if I use a bookmark here first, count something in the app. In this case, it's going to count these points, which are building points from the Prime 2 database in Galway. And if I use the summary app, you'll see that it does some nice clustering and counting there for us. And as I zoom in, the counts change. So it's a good way of getting a sort of synoptic view and a quick overview of something that you want to count in your app. And if I press F11 and just go to this example, which is planning applications in Wexford, where we're counting two things: the total number of applications and the total number of residential units referenced in those applications. And as I zoom in, you can see that the stats update in this nice fashion. So, and you can have as many of these counts, I think, as you want, can't you? Or at least you can configure in more.
Yeah, you can configure in as many as you want.
Yeah. So it's quite a nice way of presenting numeric information based on what's in context on your map at the moment. The bookmark widget you're familiar with, that basically allows you to predefine bookmarks in your web map and go to those locations on the map. Pretty straightforward. And you can add your own bookmarks to that. The Draw widget allows you to place something on the map, and I'm actually going to place something on this map. I'm going to use the Draw widget to place, let's say we're going to build a new wind farm here somewhere, and I want to drop a wind farm in here. Pick a particular symbol, pick this gold symbol and just make it big so you can see it. And I'm going to drop it in here in this contour of slightly higher wind speed. So the draw tool you're quite familiar with. It's a useful tool. You can draw on the map points, lines, polygons, text. You can create measures from that, so you can measure area or location or line length from the draw tool. And you can also use the things you draw in analysis. Is that right, Mickey?
Absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So if you go into analysis, you can go and choose your points, lines, and polygons, and do some analysis on them.
Yeah, so this is a great widget that comes directly out of the box for you. So it gives you access to all of the power of what ArcGIS Online can do in terms of actual spatial analysis. So you can see here on the widget, it brings up the menu of all the different types of things that I can do here, from creating buffers to calculating drive time areas, all with a little bit of help that tells you what these functions actually do. So these are the tasks functions on ArcGIS Online, and they're very powerful. And if we go back to the idea of providing GIS everywhere across the platform, this is what we mean. We're surfacing this amazing GIS functionality in very simple web apps across the platform that work on any device. So I'm going to do something simple here that might be typical of this sort of wind farm scenario. I want to know nearby this wind farm that I've created, that I've dropped onto the map, how many buildings from Prime 2 are about the place. And I'm going to use a distance buffer of, let's say, 1 kilometer. And run that analysis. So it goes away to ArcGIS Online and passes in my inputs, which include the point I drew and indeed the points in the feature service for the Prime 2 buildings, and works out a buffer area, intersects the buffer with the points, and will bring back a result now in a second. So Mikey, is this free or does this cost something?
This actually consumes credits, yeah. So depending on what account you're logged into, it will consume credits accordingly.
Yeah, but we looked at this earlier and like it's a couple of cents or even less to do the analysis that I've just done. So you can see it's completed the analysis, tells me it's succeeded, and it's created some output that it's put back into my viewer. So if I go to my layers list now, I now have a new layer added to my viewer, which is the results of that analysis. And you can see that there's 113 points that fall within that buffer area. And they'll also come up in the table, I think, if I view the table, which is here.
And just on that, you can see the actual buffer that was created around there and where the points are coming from.
Indeed, yeah, you can just about see the buffer there if I zoom out. So it's typical intersect analysis, overlay analysis that you might use within GIS. But the key thing about the analysis tool is, as you can see, I was able to draw something into the app. I was able to save what I drew. Whatever I drew was able to participate in the analysis. And actually, the outputs of the different analysis stages are sequential. So you can use the output of one stage of analysis as the input to the next stage of analysis. So it gives you quite a lot of power and flexibility to deliver to your users, all within the context of a relatively simple application. It's also the case that in the analysis tools here, I picked one of a big long list there to use, but you can decide when you're building the app which analysis tools you want to give your user. So you don't need to give them all of these capabilities. You can give them just the ones that are pertinent to their job. Is that correct, Mikey?
Absolutely, yeah. You can decide whichever ones you want to specify for that particular app.
Very good. Okay. I think that was what we wanted to show on the app, and now we're going to talk about how you built it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hand over to Mikey.
Right, so we're just going to switch seats here quickly. So I say customization here, but none of this was actually developed. It was all built using the builder in ArcGIS Online. So I'm just going to go into my ArcGIS Online account and go into my content. And so I have a web map in there that's been used for this application. So I'll go and just view that web map. So these are all the layers that are built behind the application that we're just after seeing. So we can see the wind farms that are after coming from the Esri ArcGIS server, and we have various other points and polygons in there. Some of them are filtered. So for example, the Prime 2 data is filtered by residence, and then some of the wind speeds, these are transparent. So I've set the transparent to fairly high. So if you can change that there as you want. So I've saved it to that level of transparency. So also I changed the base map. So I mean that's just fairly standard web map behind the application. So from there then there's two ways you can go and get into Web AppBuilder and create your app. So you can use the share functionality here, and this will use the web map that you're just after creating, and it will allow you to go in and create a application in Web AppBuilder. So it's like where you use your templates. You can still use your templates if you want, but if you want to use Web AppBuilder, there's a tab up there, and you select that tab. And so from there, you just click Get Started, and that brings you into. Okay, so I just have to change the name because I already have an application named Wind Farms in Ireland. So just change the name. And this brings us into the Web AppBuilder application where you can configure everything. So you can see the default theme is the foldable theme, and that's one that was in previous versions of the Web AppBuilder. In the latest release, there was, Eamonn said, there's various new themes, and the one that I like is the Launchpad, and so this is a bit more familiar, given that this is what the application that Eamonn was using earlier.
Can you humor me there and show me what that looks like in the Dart theme?
Absolutely. So I'll go to the Dart theme there and see how we look.
Much nicer in mine.
So that's actually quite nice. Now I haven't played around with it enough. I actually like that. Yeah, that's.
So as you change the theme, what you see is what you get comes through, and you see the change instantly.
Absolutely, yes. So you see all the widgets. Once I configure widgets, I can just go back and change the themes accordingly, and even the styles actually change. So if I go the color scheme, so if I go to the Launchpad theme, there's only certain styles available down here. I'm literally just after figuring that out. But anyway, okay, so we'll go with the Launchpad just to recreate the app that we created for this webinar. So there's various different layouts. The layout I was using was this particular one here. Sometimes it gets a bit skewed like that, but once you actually launch the application, that'll get rid of. That'll be fixed anyway, or refresh the application. So right, we've picked our theme. Our map is already created because we're after sharing the application from within that web map. So you can change the extent and the visible scales as you please, and even from in there you can choose a different web map if you want. But I'm just going to go into the widget tab and choose the widgets that I want to create. So we want to put in some widgets down here. So there's various different locations that you can put in your widgets. You can choose to put it in down here, which is the anchor bar controller, or you can choose up on the right corner, and you can put in 3 different widgets there.
So those locations are defined by whatever template you're using. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So as you change template, you might have to vary them or configure them accordingly.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go into this anchor bar controller, and as you can see, when I scroll over the legend, you can see it being highlighted down here, and the same with the layer list. And to edit those widgets, you just click the little edit button, and you can configure in there accordingly. So the legend and layer list are fairly simple widgets, but you can still configure them as you want, and you can allow people to zoom to layers or change the transparency, various things like that you can do in the web map, but now you can actually do it from within an application.
So each of these widgets has some configuration that's particular to that widget. So once you add it to the controller, it gives you the option then to configure exactly how you want the widget to behave.
Absolutely. So the first widget that I had in the application that we're using is the chart widget. So I'm going to go in and add a widget down here. I'm going to choose the chart widget. So there's a list of all the widgets that are currently available in Web AppBuilder, in the online version anyway. So we'll choose the chart widget. So you can create as many charts as you want for whatever layers you want to base them on. I'm going to choose the wind farms layer, and as you can see, you can select from the map, or you can use your own feature service if you want, or add one in from your organization account or anywhere in ArcGIS Online.
So what you're graphing doesn't necessarily need to be in the map. It can be coming from somewhere else.
Yeah, it can actually be coming from somewhere else. And you can, as you saw, you can select an area and still actually query another feature layer, even though it mightn't even be viewable.
Yeah.
So so the data source is set there. I'm just going to change some of the attributes here. And in this one, we displayed the feature counts by category. So I'm going to change that. And for the category field, I'm going to choose the county because that's what we're going to base the chart on, the number of wind farms in each county. So then you can go down and you can category. Okay, so we'll go with there anyway, and I'm just going to enable some of these chart types. So there's various different chart types that you can enable as you want, and I'm going to style them accordingly because I'm using that kind of grey background. I'm going to style these as I want. So this column chart is going to use the grey options, and I'm going to use the same for each of the different chart types. Okay, so once I have that done, you can select the highlight color. So when you scroll over a bar on the chart, this is going to highlight each of the points that are being that are highlighted from that particular line in the bar chart. So I'm going to change this to white just so it's highlighted. So white. And I'm going to change the selection symbol because I don't want this to be viewable. So I'm going to make it transparent so we can't see that. And just to be sure, I'll just change the symbol size. So that's our chart widget configured. So I'm just going to click OK and select one field value. Feature counts by category. Sorry, I'm after using the wrong chart display, so it's meant to be display feature counts by category. So now we can go into Galway. Now I don't have my, I'm going to first add my bookmark widget just so I can go down to Galway. So I'll just add my bookmark widget. Now these are bringing in the bookmarks that are defined in the web map. So I'm going to move into Galway now, and I think it was down here. So we're back in the area that Eamonn had used earlier, and we'll go again with the chart widget. And again, as Eamonn said, you can filter the space. You can filter the chart spatially if you want, but I'm going to just select. Yeah, I'll select just an area here. So select this particular area here, and we'll apply that.
Don't get anything there because you're.
Oh, I'm in the wrong. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm in. So I'm after choosing the wind farms. So there's no wind farms in there. So I'm going to go to another area and zoom out a little bit, and there we go. So I'll click apply in there, and so we have the two of those wind farms are in Galway. So I'll go back and I'll filter just for the whole of Ireland. Or some of Ireland anyway. So we'll apply that area to the chart, and so you can see each county that's been highlighted in here. So there's quite a few wind farms in Donegal.
Probably don't need to configure them all.
We can just go through one or two. Okay, so from there, I'm just going to put in the draw and the analysis widget, just so you show you what you can configure with them. So the draw widget is here, and you can add this draw. The main thing here you need to do is add the drawing as an operational layer of the map. If you want to use this widget, the drawings that you input onto the map, in the analysis widget, you have to add them as an operational layer.
All right, so that's what enabled me to draw the point and then take it through to the analysis.
Yeah, so we can actually see here. I'll click OK here, and we'll have a look at the layer list, and we'll see this. We'll see this updating once I add a point in here. So let's say I want to add a point in here. So I'm going to add a point in there, and as you can see your draw results is added to the operational layers here. So that's how the analysis widget can then go and pick it up. So I'll go ahead and add the analysis widget. And so as Eamonn was asking about earlier, you can choose whichever analysis you actually want in the application. So we were using summarize within, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll just go with this widget. We just want the one widget available. And now when we open this,
actually we were using summarize nearby.
We were using summarize nearby. Okay, I'll just change it for the sake of it. Summarize nearby. So we'll go in there, and now when I open the analysis widget, it goes directly into the summarize nearby because that's the only analysis that's been configured for this application. So from in there, then you can go in and you can select your point and do the analysis that Eamonn did earlier. So that's how this application was configured earlier. Another thing of note is the search widget. So this is part of the new features you can add in feature layers to search. So you can go in and choose, say, wind farms.
Can you choose the Galway building points there, Mikey?
Absolutely, yeah. So we'll go in there and we'll choose that feature service. Is there any particular search fields here?
The GUID, the building GUID from Prime 2.
Yeah. Let's see.
It's called GUID, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll add that in there, and you can configure the amount of results you actually want. So we'll set that. And now up here you can see that this widget has been updated, and you can search in either the Esri World Geocoder, or you can search in the Galway building points.
Just click on that second one there, Mikey, will you?
And even by default, it searches them all, but we'll go into that second one anyway.
And just type in E650.
E650.
Okay. Just try it in our live app.
Okay. Okay, we probably didn't configure that properly, but we'll go back in here anyway and put that in here. So there we go. You can see all the GUID of the buildings in Galway.
So you pick the first one there, it'll just
go into the first one.
So for instance, if you had air codes on those, you could have just typed in your air code there and found it pretty damn quick, yeah?
That's quite useful, yeah, that would be nice.
So,
I live out in the country and it's impossible to find my house, so.
Yeah. So actually it was searching, we have about 24,000 Prime 2 building points in that Galway coverage there. So it was, even doing the predictive search, it was very quick on the 24,000.
That's quite quick, alright. So that's essentially how I configured all those widgets. There were one or two others in there. Print widgets, you can, as Eamonn mentioned earlier, you can configure your own custom print services. And they'll come through from your organization if you have them set up within your organization. Other than that, that's pretty much how this application was made.
So you didn't have to write any code,
no code at all
to get there, yeah?
None.
Okay.
Now I did have to edit the Esri logo, but other than that, which I did in here, so you can change, you can add in your logo if you want from in here. And just for the sake of it, I have it actually here in the desktop. So
it's not any PNG or GIF or something, is it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, any of the standard image files you can input there, and that looks quite nice there. But you can change that as you want. You can put in whatever image you want, and you can even remove this with Web AppBuilder for ArcGIS if you don't want it.
Yeah.
But you can also add in links, which can be quite useful if there's particular sites that are linked to this application that will be useful for users. Okay, so there are all the apps that are all the widgets that we use in that particular application. But let's say you wanted to do something outside of the box and it wasn't available in the pre-configured widgets, pre-built widgets. Well, there's a whole development environment that you can build on. And just to go to the Web AppBuilder, you can use the Web AppBuilder Developer Edition. So just going to go Google the Web AppBuilder Developer Edition. And so from there you can go and download all the code behind the Web AppBuilder. So I have this downloaded already, but this is where you can download it. So I have it on my desktop here. And so you get this zip file. I've unzipped it already, and so I'll go in there. And so this is the code you need behind the Web AppBuilder. So to start it, you need to install Node.js. So that's available from the server folder within the downloaded application.
So what is Node.js? That's a sort of an open source project, isn't it? That runs a web server in your browser, yeah?
Exactly, yeah. So it allows you to run Web AppBuilder basically without anything else. You don't need
IIS. Okay, that's cool. Yeah.
You don't need anything apart from Node.js, and you can put it anywhere on your. You can have it in your My Documents. I just have it here on my desktop, the folder. And so to start it up, you just double click on the startup.bat file.
So essentially you've taken what we saw on ArcGIS Online sort of offline onto your own machine. You're running it in a little mini web server that's encapsulated in Node.js, and you're good to go.
Yeah, basically. So from here, you're prompted to log into your organization account. So you have to register your Web AppBuilder Developer Edition with your ArcGIS Online account. So I'm going to go into my ArcGIS Online account.
Just while you're doing that, I'll just let the audience know we are monitoring your questions here, and hopefully we'll get to them towards the end of the presentation.
So obviously this is Windows. If you're using other platforms, there'll be various different setups. But as far as I know, the register and the Web App Builder is the same for all of them. So to register your developer edition, you have to add an item and go into add an application.
So the reason we're doing this is so that the applications that you build and Web App Builder itself know about your portal and know about all those utility services, etc., that I mentioned, and also so that you can control security around your web apps and indeed the use of Web App Builder.
So as part of this, you need your computer name and your domain name. So you can get them from my computer, and so my full computer name is here. Or to get it in the exact format that you need, you can use this command here from command prompt. So this is just getting your computer name, and then it's getting your domain. Okay, so I obviously did something wrong there. Missing an E. Okay, so I obviously have a typo in the second one as well. User DNS domain. Okay, I'm not sure why that's not working, but in any case, when you launch the application, you can get it from here. So I don't know why I didn't just do that from the start. So you copy that, and you go in and you can add that in here. And so you have to put in the port that you're going to use, and you have to put in Web App Builder.
So the default port on Node is always 3344, yeah?
Yeah, but you can change that if needs be. And then you register it in ArcGIS Online again. Okay, so I'm just going to name that register Web App Builder. And I will add that item. So from within there, then you register your application, and again you go back to what you have here, and you can copy and paste that in. So usually you would add HTTP and HTTPS, just to be sure both of them are working. Yeah, so I'll add that. I'll add in HTTPS as well. So we'll register that. And so then you have your app ID. So this is the app ID that you need to set up the registration of the developer edition. So that logs you into your ArcGIS Online, and you prove it. And so then this opens up. This is a new part here, but this allows you to import from ArcGIS Online. So you can import an application that you've built already within ArcGIS Online with all your pre-configured widgets. So if you just want to build on top of something, you can configure it as you want in ArcGIS Online, and then download it and configure as you want. So we'll just create a new one here, and just say webinar. So then once you get in here, this is a very familiar experience. It's the same builder as you would get in ArcGIS Online, so it's very similar to here. However, it is different. The developer edition is behind the ArcGIS Online edition, and so you don't have the same themes available, nor do you have the same widgets. So the new widgets that have come are not yet available in the developer edition.
That's just a short. That's just where we are because it's such a recent release, though, isn't it? We expect this to be in sync with the embedded online edition within the space of a week or two.
Yeah, this will be ready to go in the next week or two, so I wouldn't be too concerned about that. So what's actually in those files that we're just after downloading? Let's have a look. So I'm just going to open up Sublime Text and drop the Web AppBuilder folder in, and we'll have a look at the client SCE maps and widgets. So there's all your widgets that are available in ArcGIS Online, and it's basically all the code behind them. So if you want to go and look at the edit widget that Esri have configured, you can look it up. You can just download the code and you can see all the code that they've used that's behind that particular widget. So this gives you a great building point if you want to build on one of the widgets that Esri have. You just need a little bit extra functionality. You can go download the code behind that widget and configure it as you want. So they have some sample widgets here as well. The Web AppBuilder is built with Dojo and JavaScript, but you're able to bring in other frameworks as you want. So there's an example here in the sample widgets to use jQuery. So it gives you an example of how to bring in jQuery if that's something that you're familiar with and you would rather use. So I think there's quite a few custom widgets that are available. So I'm just going to skip on a few slides here. I know we're a wee bit behind time. But there's quite a few communities out there. And I know with the Flex Builder, there were a lot of widgets that were used and they were custom built. And so there's actually a group in GeoNet that shows you all the custom widgets that are available, and I definitely recommend. We have these slides up, and they're available at this link here, just at the start. So if you want to download them, we have quite a few resources that you can go back to if you want, and there's quite a few links to some of the custom widgets that are available for Web AppBuilder. So once you get one of these widgets, what do you actually go and do? Well, it's literally just a matter of pasting that widget into a folder within Web AppBuilder. So I'm just going to leave my my command on here so we can keep an eye on it. And we'll open up this webinar folder. And I'm after downloading a search widget that is available through the custom widgets group in GeoNet. So I'm going to just copy that and I'll open up my folder again here. So this is where my Web AppBuilder is, and I'll paste it into the widgets folder. Okay, so that widget is just after being added in there, and so we'll go back into the viewer here and we'll refresh.
So you just have to paste it in. Even I could do that. You don't have to import it like you used to have to do with the Flex widgets, no?
No, you literally just have to paste it in there and it should pick it up here, hopefully. It's not after picking that up now. Let me just have a quick look. I'm after pasting into the wrong folder. Yeah, so I think I'm, let's see. I think I'm in the right folder. I'm not sure why that's not working. But it doesn't, it's not after picking it up. Usually it picks it up
over there as well.
Over here as well. So that's something I think we might go back to another stage. We're kind of running out of time here, so I will send on details on how to do this. It is fairly simple, and it is literally a case of pasting it into a folder. So you download the widget. So I downloaded the eSearch widget, and you literally just unzip it. There's your files that you need, and you paste that in, and it comes in and it gets added into your widgets in here. So then you can click into the widget and configure it as you would in ArcGIS Online.
Right.
Okay, so I think we'll leave it at that for demonstrations, and I'll get back to everyone about how you can actually go about using those custom widgets. But it is literally a case of once you have your developer edition set up, you can paste it into that folder and add it as a widget. And there's plenty of resources out there. This resource here is one that I find myself using quite a bit, and it has, even from troubleshooting to looking for custom widgets, everything is listed there, and it's really well documented. So there's about 20 plus custom widgets that have been shared by the community, and they're being built day in, day out. And you can't rely on the documentation, but it is there, and the people are generally there to help you out if you do run into trouble.
And this is an interesting one. Some of those widgets are going onto GitHub, aren't they? So, for instance, Esri are deploying custom widgets for Web AppBuilder just into open source on GitHub.
So the Esri Solutions team, they've created some widgets for that are used for specific workflows, and they're all available on the Esri GitHub account, which is quite useful.
There's two Esri accounts, isn't there? There's the solutions team, and there's another team probably listed here. Yeah, we can send that information on anyway. But what we're seeing is that quite often now Esri are just releasing the widgets onto GitHub in open source, and then after a few generations, they'll pull them back into the core product. So they're using GitHub and the open source community as a good test bed for some of these widgets. These slides are all available to you, so they list the resources that we found useful in terms of putting this webinar together and building applications.
And just a note out there, there's a new website out, well, it's a book actually called the ArcGIS book, and it's free and it's available online, and it's just a lot of training even there that you can learn a lot about the platform and how to build these applications. And there's one specifically for Web AppBuilder, so it might be worth going and having a look at that.
Right. So I won't go through these, but there's so some people might be familiar with a guy called Robert Scheitelin who works for some county in Alabama, is it?
The US.
In the US, and he was very active on the Flex forums, and he's ported a lot of his widgets, which were very useful to the JavaScript forum.
Calhoun County?
Calhoun County, yeah. Particularly eSearch is a very good one. Combines attribute and location, search by attribute, search by location from ArcMap.
And even the elevation profile there, that's available in one of the templates, but it's not available in Web AppBuilder. So if you want to use that in Web AppBuilder, he actually has created a custom widget that you can add in if you want to.
Cool. So in terms of where the product's going, the big news is that support for 3D across all the platform, hopefully by the end of the year or early next year, and that will include the Web AppBuilder itself, so that you can build 3D apps that use 3D web scenes. So we're working hard on that at the moment, and if you've looked at any of the videos from the Esri UC, you will have seen some of that stuff that's on the way in terms of 3D. There's a few things we didn't get to. I'll just mention them briefly. And a key thing that has come up is you've seen how you can use either the embedded edition, which is the edition of Web AppBuilder that's in ArcGIS Online, or the developer edition. And the developer edition is a downloadable edition which you build apps locally. when you build an app locally and you want to embed a custom widget in that app, you can't host it back on ArcGIS Online. You have to host it somewhere else. Now, you can host it on your own IIS server, but actually, because these apps are pure client-side JavaScript, what we've been doing is just sticking them onto either Azure into the what's it called, the Azure websites,
the web apps,
part of Azure, which is free pretty much when you have an Azure account.
Yeah.
So free hosting there, yeah.
Mm.
Or you can put it on Amazon S3, which is the simple storage system on Amazon, which is, I don't think it's quite free, but it's as near as damn it to free. We found that really useful because, like, a couple of years ago, you used to have to pay people to host these things for you. Literally now you can churn them out using Web AppBuilder, and you don't even have to go to your own IT department if you don't want to. You can host these things somewhere out on the cloud. And when someone hits your app, what happens is the app gets downloaded to their browser and runs in pure JavaScript on the browser. There's no server-side dependencies, so you can run your app, host it, and run it very cheaply. I'm going to take a few of your questions. Thanks for those. We've still got a heap of people on, so thanks for staying with us. I'm going to just change screens here, go over and have a look, see what sort of questions we've got. We've got one about changing the text color in the links. That's to do with when you add hyperlinks onto your top menu bar, I think. Yeah, we'll come back to that one. I don't think we'll be able to demonstrate that, but it's doable through the HTML and CSS for the site. Lots of people can see the mouse. I obviously asked that question. That's good. There's a question about whether for the chart widget you can import a polygon from a shape. I've seen in the geoprocessing stuff, the geoprocessing widget, that you can now upload from a shapefile, for instance, into the geoprocessing widget, but I don't know whether you can upload a shapefile just into the graphics layer and then use that. Probably not, I would say, but we'll check it out.
But you could add it into the web map and go from there.
Yeah, you could, yeah. There's a question about groups and how do I control who gets access to my app. Well, the great thing is that the app, when you build it and deploy it, is part of your portal. So you share your app in exactly the same way as you share your web map. So you can build an app and then share that app with a group that you define, and the group has members that you define. So only those members are going to be able to get at those apps that you deploy in that way. So you actually get all the built-in security and group management aspects of ArcGIS when you develop these apps and deploy them. They can, of course, be public, in which case you don't have to sign in or anything.
Yeah, it's handy. If they're going to be public, you might as well just leave them public.
Yeah.
But if you do want them internally, you can create groups, and you can have people from inside or outside your organization within that group once they have an ArcGIS Online account.
There's a question on the coordinate readout on the lower left, whether it's possible to have that in some other coordinate system, and the answer to that is yes. That's a configuration option. In fact, if you click on it, it actually brings up the alternate coordinate systems that it's configured.
Yeah, and even there's an open source widget there, the location widget here, which might be used.
Yeah, that allows you to check different coordinate systems.
Yeah,
as well.
which allows you to use your whatever coordinate system you want. So if you want to use ITN, you can.
There's a question about credits, about which widgets consume credits. The only widget we showed that consumes credits was the Analysis Widget, which consumes very little credits actually, but some other widgets do as well, like routing and directions. So if you publish anything in your application the equivalent of which would consume credits on ArcGIS Online, it'll also consume credits via your application. So you need to be a little bit thoughtful about how you share that out and what you want to do there. But the credits, when you actually look at them, they're very, very small amounts of credits we're actually using. Like I think in that buffer analysis, we use something like 0.4 of a credit when you can get 1,000 credits for 90 euros. So you're not actually going
to about 4 cents, I think.
Yeah, less 8%. Even. Yeah. How can you download the app we just created? Well, that's a good question. I think if you share the app on ArcGIS Online,
so you'll be able
it can
to
be downloaded.
If I share the actual item in ArcGIS Online, you can literally just go and download But if you want to download the code, you can and run it locally.
Yeah.
Whether you can bring that into your own organization account, I'm not sure, but it's easy enough to configure that app anyway.
Yeah, but you can also, if you're the builder of the app, you can download it from the builder itself. So some people might want to build the app on ArcGIS Online using the embedded edition and then download it and host it somewhere else, for instance. So that's a typical use case. So there's a download button on the Web App Builder itself.
On the item you can go in and just clearly just a drop down menu and click download.
Will the webinar be available as a video? Yes, it will.
We'll have it up on YouTube in the next day or two.
There's a question about linking to PDFs from Web App Builder. I'm not quite sure what that means, but in theory, yes, that's possible. Like you can link to PDFs from the pop-ups, etc. How do you load your web map if using the developer edition? So once you complete your registration using the workflow Mikey showed there, the developer edition knows about the web maps in your account.
I think basically when you're creating a widget, the map object is just available to you from within the widget. So if you use one of the templates, it should be just available to you within there. But if you look at some of the samples, I'm sure you'll get a good feel for it fairly quickly.
Yeah, so you authorized there when you went through that process to do all the registration. The next question you got asked was to log into your account, and once you do that from the developer edition knows about the web maps that you have access to in your account on Portal or your account on Online.
Yeah. And even you can access any public web maps if you want to.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, I mean you should be able to access the JSON behind the web map fairly easily.
Okay, so that wraps it up today for Web App Builder. In the next webinar, we're going to have a look at another app builder. This time it's the native app builder that you may have heard about called App Studio. So what App Studio does, it allows you to build an app that runs natively on your iPhone or Android device, and you can put that indeed in the App Store for those devices. So if you want to build a branded app that you want to put, say, in the Apple Store or in Google Play, you can use App Studio in a very similar way to what we've done here with Web App Builder. So that's quite exciting new technology that we'll be talking about in the next webinar, which is in about 6 weeks or so.
Yeah. Provisional date is the 9th of September.
Great. Okay, thanks for staying with us, guys, and we look forward to seeing you the next time around.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys.